what I wanted to go into today, which was thwarted, was how the police treated me when I tried to report rape. And I forgot to mention that before I was going to report the rape, the Mount Angel Abbey did, and Archdiocese did offer me $40,000 if I signed a confidentiality agreement to keep my mouth shut. And I thought that it was a good negotiation in a sense, that they were willing to admit something wrong had been done. I mean, they had used police illegally against me. That was the crux of the case. The case was not how intimate the monk was with me. It wasn't about that. It was about unlawful use of police. And it caused a lot of distress, obviously. So I thought that that was a good starting point, but then I looked at it, how much I had lost already from what had happened, and I countered with $60,000, and they refused, and then they held that against me all the way through the lawsuit. Basically, they obstructed me from finishing my lawsuit, found ways to keep me from even being in court at all by using their friends that are in the military to illegally torture me and trigger migraines, and to block my travel. I mean, I obviously couldn't travel, could I, when one of their friends was a judge who put an illegal suspension on my license and towed my car away. So after they did those sorts of things, they tried to get caused a lot of distress, and they'd also defamed me, grossly defamed me. And so when I asked for a medical abatement for the Willamette case, I actually, asked that I have a little more time because I was, for some reason, getting sick all the time. And it wasn't stress, it was something else. She refused, and then the Archdiocese and Abbey, their lawyers, decided to then sling me with $40,000. They asked Judge Janet Wilson for $40,000 in their attorney's fees. So they basically socked it to me. They offered me $40,000, knowing that what they had done was probably much worse than that, and worth more than that. And then they held it against me. They ran me out of my lawsuit unlawfully, and then left this $40,000 bill hanging over my head when they already knew that I was the victim. So that's what happened with that. I think it was around close to 2002, after my 2 lawsuits had already commenced, I considered going forward with a rape claim. And I'm trying to remember if I met the FBI agents first and then I decided to file. No, I met them later, I think. Yes, I met them later. So, I'm not sure why I decided, what brought it to my mind that I should go ahead and bring the rape charge. I think possibly it was after doing research. I think it was probably brought on by the fact that I was doing a lot of research for my lawsuits, and although I wasn't sexually assaulted by the clergy myself, I was exploited, but I was not sexually assaulted. And yet I was coming into contact with a lot of cases about sexual assault and rape and different things, and it's possible that being surrounded, doing some of that research brought it to my mind about how it helped me to understand, because I think I started doing research about what date rape was. And so I think that's when I recognized, well, first of all, the rape, I mean, I would process some of that and realize that it wasn't my fault and I shouldn't be ashamed for what had happened to me. And for the longest time, I wanted to just keep it a secret because I felt that it was a shame to me. And that, who would understand where I had been coming from? Who would really be able to understand me? And why I stayed with him a week afterwards, after the rape, like, who understands the whole process of shock, being in shock, and also being extremely highly religious at that time, which was really out of the ordinary. And I just felt that nobody will understand what I'm talking about. However, I think that some women do, even if they don't have this exact same values that I had then, or the same story. I think that they understand, so I decided to go ahead and go forward with that. And like I said, I contacted Tualatin Police, it was Tualatin Police, and they were fairly helpful. Then I went to Portland Police, and by the way, I decided to go ahead and report the rape after I had an interesting email exchange with Robin Bechtel, the date rapist, because I had already brought up what my friend Eric Ballinger said in his use of me when I was fully intoxicated. So, incapacitated, unable to consent, and he sent back a bunch of defensive emails and trying to catch me into sounding like there was something wrong with me, or that it didn't really happen, or whatever. So that had already happened. He was already, his radar was already up. And I don't know if he's probably concerned that I might report it, because otherwise he wouldn't have tried to do this whole slurry of emails to kind of whitewash what happened. So it's after that I decided to report. Mainly, I was just going to report the first rapist, so report Josh Gatop. And when I went to the Portland Police, they were extremely hostile, they were condescending, they were not nice at all, and very degrading. So I then found out that you can get an advocate. So if there are any women out there that do want to report a rape, I would highly recommend that you request an advocate and see if the court has one. Sometimes they have advocates that are willing to go with you or help coach you as you make a sexual assault complaint. And it's very helpful because having that other person with you, standing next to you and standing by, gives you it puts a little more pressure on the police to not just throw out, dismiss, and disregard your claim. And it also helped with how I was treated. So I basically called for an advocate, and then instead of giving me an advocate, they decided to take my complaint seriously and they gave me a detective. So I was assigned with Detective Brian Gross at the Portland PD. And because I've already talked about some of this other stuff, because of what has happened today with the mental health guide coming out and all of that, I don't want to have just tons and tons of footage for today. So I'm going to continue this tomorrow, and tomorrow I hope that I will be more speedy and be able to get through a lot more material more quickly and help others to understand what the surroundings were in the environment and how this contributed to them being tortured, seriously tortured, even more later than I was. So, thanks for your time, and I'll see you tomorrow.